Hello, my name is Starla Henderson, and this is Fronterhouse Quilts blog, and we're working on the spring sampler today. We are going to continue with the iris I call Beverly, and we're going to mostly be working on this throat, as I call it, this little center part right here, and I will talk about this part as well. And this part is probably the hardest part that you will do, but it's still very doable. Alright, I already have that basted down and ready to go, and I've started, I like to start just a little bit after an inside curve. When you've got a shape like this, it's completely one shape. It's not like where you've got something that you're going to leave a tail at. You have to pick a good spot to begin, and you don't want to start if you can keep from it on a curve like an inside curve like this. It gets a little bit complicated. So just as we're coming out of it, I started, and I've already stitched up the side, and I stitched right into the point. We've done points before, but you stitch up to the side, turn it, and go right into that point, right where the point makes the V of the point. Make sure you've trimmed your point down before you turn it, but you don't want to trim it too close, because if you do, then you don't have enough to turn. Alright, I'm going to try and move my camera a little bit closer. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Now, once you've got that, you've taken the stitch into the point, you're going to take your needle and you're going to grab a hold of the fabric, and you're just going to swoop it up underneath that point. Then I kind of hold it just a little bit, put my needle down, and I just give it a little bit of a tug to pull that point back into shape, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue to turn. And this is the hard part about this, is because you are working with a very small shape, so you've got a lot of fabric already in here. So stuffing it down in there can kind of sometimes be difficult. That's why you have to trim this. I probably trim it just a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch, because I'm going into such a small space. When you get it turned in, then you're going to take as tiny stitches as you can as you start back down that next side, just like that. And I'm going to keep right on turning, and you have to keep kind of stuffing and pulling this where you can get what you want, get it here the way you want it, and taking as tiny stitches as you can. You just keep working your way on down. Okay, and I'm going to work on over until I get to this next little curve. We're going to talk about it. Okay, as you can see, we are now approaching this little inside curve, and just like any other inside curve, you're going to clip it. Now, the only thing is, if you look at this, it might be easier to actually see from the back, I don't know. This is a very narrow space that you're going to have here. Very narrow. So I've already trimmed this as small as I can, so that I can get that in there. And now I'm going to clip it. And again, you're going to clip right up to that line. I'm probably, because I want this to curve and not make a V, I can't get hold of my scissors, I am going to clip this twice, right up to that line. Probably less than 1/8 of an inch apart. Very close together, that clipping. There we go. And you're just going to keep right on turning, just like any other inside curve. And I'm going to get all tucked under all my little threads. This fabric wants to fray a little bit more, and you're going to find some fabrics do. You just have to learn to work with them and keep stuffing with your needle until you get everything stuffed under where you want it. There are products out there you can use, but I very rarely do. Okay, now, And you can take your needle and kind of swoop it, run it along that curve like that, and that will also help get anything that is sticking out, little threads from the spray, and get it tucked under where you want it. And I'm going to continue right through this inside curve into the next little outside curve, and I'm going to go all the way down to the other side, to this other inside curve, past this point. And I'm going to show you what to do over there. Once again, when you get to the point, you're going to go right up into the V of that point, right into it. Okay, now I'm going to pull my thread back out of the way. I pin my thread down with my needle so that it doesn't get in my way there, because I have accidentally clipped my thread, and that's very frustrating, especially when you've worked so hard to get this into a good shape. Okay, now you're going to trim this just a little bit, because again, we're going to be stuffing this into a very tight space. So no less than probably, that's just a little over 1/8 of an inch, I would say, right around that. Okay. Now, just like before, I'm going to take this and I'm going to just put my needle in the end of where the fabric is, and using my needle as my tool, I just do this little swishing motion with my, it's this kind of motion with your wrist, and get it tucked under there. And I'm going to go ahead and tuck just a little bit further down. Again, this fabric really wants to fray on me. Now I'm going to pull that point, and it's kind of hard to see here because this, right where that point is, it actually almost matches my background of that flower. It's sharp. It is possible to do this. It just takes practice. And if it doesn't come as sharp as you want, that's okay. It's a flower. All flowers grow differently. That's one reason I like nature. It gives me a little bit leeway to work with sometimes. Alright, I'm going to pin this out of the way again, because now I've got this other inside curve. And once again, this is a very narrow space right here. So I'm going to trim it just a little bit, because I want to have enough to curve out. To put under. Again, no less than 1/8, probably just a hair more. And with practice, you kind of figure out what is the right amount for you. And that, just like before, I'm going to go in, I'm going to clip right up to that line. Probably twice, because that's a narrow spot we're filling in here, but this curve is not near as tight. Even though I've got a longer space, it's not near as tight as this one. But if I need to clip it again, I always can. Okay, and I'm just going to continue to turn, stuffing that under. In fact, I'm going to stuff it for a little ways here. There we go. And just keep right on stitching. Taking tiny stitches as you can. Okay. Now, I've turned this last little bit, as you can see, and I just took my needle and I just kind of ran it all the way under that and tucked every little piece. And you can tell how narrow that little area is. But it's all under there. It's all nice and neat. I've got good points. And that's how you do that throat. And that is probably the most difficult part. Now, the other little piece, it's really easy. It's almost like a teardrop shape. It is nothing but soft curves, just a huge outside curve, a little bit of an inside curve right there, and a point. and you're just going to back baste it on there. And it's very similar to this side petal right here. Back baste it on there and applique it. Just make sure when you do, and as you back baste, you can make sure, that's one reason I really do like the back basting method, that you catch this little tail that we left from the last one, because that's a raw edge. You wanted to leave it raw so it would go under this other petal, this very last petal. And then once you've done that, this iris Beverly, get it back in camera, this iris Beverly will be finished. This is one of my favorite flowers. I designed it 5 or 6 years ago. I took a picture from a friend of mine's garden. Her name is Beverly, and I just love the way this iris turned out, and I have it in several of my quilts that I have designed over the years because it's just one of my favorite flowers. So I hope you enjoy making it. There's 2 or 3 of them on this on the Spring Sampler, as well as on other quilts that I have designed. So let me know how it goes, and thank you for joining me. This is Starla Henderson with Fronterhouse Quilts blog.